The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everybody to the call today. Today I've got the pleasure of having the team from Position Me Online in the office. We're going to be talking about the 3 biggest mistakes that business owners can make on social media. Now, before we start, I know that social media is a new area for marketing for a lot of people. It's very confusing, it's very complicated, so I figured we needed to get the experts in to give us a bit of light on the subject, tell us what's been going on, and tell us how we can get the most out of social media. So I'd like to welcome Nathaniel and Pamela to the call from Position Me Online. Welcome, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks, David.
Excellent. Now, we've had Nathaniel on before, and I know that he's quite well versed in the whole social media side of things and integrating that with the website. But we've got the pleasure of having Pamela, who's the head of training for the social media aspect of Position Me Online. So, Pamela, just tell us a bit about your background.
Sure. I wear quite a few different hats. So when I'm working for Position Me Online, I'm looking after implementing social media strategies for hundreds of clients in a variety of industries, from obvious ones such as the arts industries, which lend themselves to social media, but also ones that you wouldn't think, such as more formal and medical, or even mining industry brands.
Yep.
But then when I'm not actually overseeing the strategies being implemented for businesses, I have another hat where I work for the Australian Digital Marketing Institute,
Right.
where we train businesses who are interested in learning how to do it for themselves.
Fantastic. So let's sort of get into the thick of things. I know a lot of people have been playing with social media for business, and I know a lot of people have spent money, time, energy, effort, and come away with frustration, pulling their hair out. So tell us a bit about what you think. Is social media a real tool for business?
I believe that there is a tangible return on any business's investment into social media. However, it comes with a big fat qualifier, and that's if you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of businesses are using social media
Mm-hmm.
for business goals, but making really big mistakes. So there is return to be had, but only if you avoid the mistakes. So businesses are not getting return more often than not because of these follies, if you will, that we'll get a little bit more into and chew on them a little bit, so that you guys out there can actually leave this webinar with some of that knowledge under your own hats.
Excellent. So look, you mentioned 3 biggest mistakes, right, that businesses can make. Before we sort of go into those, you know, what sort of drove you to identify those? Like, what happened?
Sure. So I'll split it up into, say, the big mistakes that the big companies can make. So when
Sure.
looking at massive brands and their attempts to use social media, such as Coca-Cola or Pepsi, say their rival,
Yeah.
seeing the way they do social media, basically some get it right and some get it wrong.
Right.
And there are lots of reports out now to actually look at the back end of the results. So Coke gets it right, just for the record. Pepsi in 2009 and 2010 got accolades from all of the people who might academically report, such as Harvard and Forrester. They came out with these ridiculous results through their use of social media, which indicated that they were getting it right.
Yep.
So they ran a campaign where they got all of their workforce to start answering customer inquiries, and they called it a 12 force. And apparently they got so much engagement on social media that they were accoladed as brilliant.
Yeah.
However, come 2012, the results of their sales came in, and the CEO and the chief marketing officer also were looking for a new job because it was down.
So really what you're suggesting is that the amount of traffic and noise that we do on social media does not necessarily relate to a business result.
Right. I'd argue that more often than not, the wrong things are being measured.
Right.
And also to bring it back to perhaps something more realistic for most businesses, say small to medium businesses, also dealing a lot with the way small to medium businesses are dealing with their instinct of how to do social media. Unfortunately, to get social media right is very counterintuitive.
Yep.
So if you've got any marketing experience at all, or if you're a small business and you just apply common sense to it, you think, okay, I'm just going to do what I think marketing techniques should work.
Yep.
If you do that, but that's actually wrong.
Okay.
And so it's really hard. And so our businesses come to us saying to us, this is what we want to do and how we want to do it. And sometimes we have to do it because at the end of the day, they're paying us to do what they want,
Yeah.
but there's a discrepancy between what they need and what they want. So when we do, in those cases, what's wanted,
Yeah.
we then can compare the results at the end of any month and show these are the results when you do that.
Right.
And however, give us a month to do it differently and check out the results. And
Right.
so it's a matter of kind of twisting what comes naturally and going, no, resist the urge.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at what that urge is and how not to do it.
Sure. Well, obviously from coaching businesses, our natural sort of tendency is to look at marketing as marketing. And marketing is all about getting someone's attention, getting their interest, getting their desire, and getting them to move on a call to action. So that's a very direct mode. And that would be my intuitive way of looking at social media. What you're telling me is that that's not the best way.
Right. So let's create a scenario to help understand it, because it is abstract. So let's put it into a story that perhaps all of us could understand in real life.
Sure.
And the key to the link between this story and using social media for business purposes is the word social.
Right.
Okay, so let's think of a real life social situation. So, David, imagine your best social event that you could possibly be at, your favourite thing. Can I ask, is it meeting some friends at a bar after work? Is it a dinner party in your home?
That's a good question. Probably all of the above.
Okay, well then let me choose for you.
Let's go for a big party, like a New Year's Eve party down at a, at a gathering place, like a Belgian beer bar.
Okay, so we've got David meeting some friends, possibly with a lot more people there than even who he knows. It's a big shindig for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that David has been there for about an hour already at the Belgian Beer Garden. And he's huddled with a group, having a few drinks. He's hooked up with maybe, say, 2 or 3 other people.
Yep.
And the conversation that you're happening has become quite easy. You've had a few, so you're relaxed.
Yep.
You may or may not know this. These may or may not be your actual friends, but you've either met them there and or you know them a bit. The point is that you're enjoying it. You know how some social events are better than others?
Yep.
In this one, there's chemistry between your little group.
Okay.
You're enjoying each other. You could even have the flirt factor if you like, where you particularly got some sparks with somebody in the group.
Well, there's the sense of some of this. But yes, let's keep going.
But with or without that, it holds, okay? The point is you're engaged with each other and you're loving it. Okay, imagine, I am a hairdresser in Melbourne. I've joined this. I've walked into the Belgian Beer Garden.
Yeah.
I actually don't know anybody there.
Okay.
I spot your little group enjoying and laughing and talking, and I stride over to you, and I put my hand on your shoulder, David, your shoulder in particular, because you were the one that was in the middle of talking at the time.
Right.
And I put my hand on your shoulder and I say this. Okay, so just imagine it.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Pamela, and I am a hairdresser in Melbourne who specialises in cutting and shaping everybody's hair who has red hair. And I'm so good at my job. In fact, everybody in my workplace is so good at our jobs that we had a little celebration party last week to congratulate ourselves for the good work that we do. And our clients always tell us how good we are as well. So this week, I thought it was so important that you actually know I am giving a discount of 15% to all people who want their red hair cut. Do you like me?
That's a good example. That actually happened.
Right, and you can dial it back a little bit and even just imagine a business network meeting.
Yeah.
Even in that context where the objective is to discuss business and create networks, if somebody did that, they would be, you'd roll your eyes at the very least, wouldn't you?
Sure.
Or you'd think.
Their biggest frustration is businesses who go to networking events tend to try and sell, and it becomes it's like a shark pool.
Right.
So I suppose the metaphor you're using is quite similar to a business networking event where you walk in and you're actually looking for someone interesting to talk to about something interesting other than what they do.
And the chances are, if you joined that group a little more sensitively, you might hover a little bit wait for a natural pause in the conversation,
Right.
and then introduce yourself, but potentially ask something about somebody else,
Right.
listen to them, and eventually they might very well ask what you do.
Okay.
But that
So-
would be a more natural way of doing it.
Wow.
So the key word is social. That's a social event.
Gotcha.
This is social media.
Mhm.
So people, when they go to Google,
Yeah.
they're towards the middle or the end of the buying cycle. They either want more information about products that they're thinking about buying, or they know exactly what they want and they just want to find the website that they need to get to.
Right.
On social media, they're not necessarily there to buy in terms of where they're at in the buying cycle. It doesn't mean that they don't buy.
Yep.
It's just that they're not
There
there
to
at
buy.
that part in the buying cycle. So if you take
Right.
normal marketing strategies, which are to wrap up the personality of your brand, talk
And
about
push
the
it.
nuances of your points of difference,
Yeah.
and then blast it to the world, if you go on social and do that, you will get the same result as what somebody would get if they did that at the Belgian Beer Garden.
Gotcha.
So the biggest mistake, number one,
Is
shouting and talking all the time. Now, you might think that you're not shouting.
Yeah.
You might think that you're quite beautifully wrapping up some kind of marketing message
Yeah.
and sensitively putting it on social media.
Mm.
However, the point is that if you go in hard like that about anything that this is about me, this is about my product,
Yeah.
as your first contact with a potential audience on social media, it's the equivalent of shouting at somebody.
Okay. I get that. So really, I suppose, and I'm trying to relate it to what I understand. See, often we look at marketing as generating leads. But what I'm hearing is that social media is not about generating leads. It's about making connections, which may become leads in the future.
Yeah, and we will actually even get into that a little bit more. We're going to go on and talk a little bit about what you should be doing on social media, and then what you measure, and then how the relationship that has to leads and sales. Because it all has to end there.
Sure. Okay. So that metaphor of the party at the Belgian Beer Garden will stick in my mind for a long time. I do understand it because you're exactly right. I see people do that online all the time, and I see people doing it at networking events all the time, and they think they're doing the right thing, and that's what they're paid to do. But in essence, what they're doing is the opposite. They're actually they're ostracizing themselves, or in social terms, unfriending people.
Yep. Can I just point out at this stage? About 99% of people who I've trained or explained this to with regard to their own business say that they get it, and then the very first post that they make does it. So it's really hard to actually apply this. So before we move on, I'll leave you with just an example of what it would look like in reality, because not many people would not get that you don't irritate people at a social event.
Right.
But to actually apply it to how you talk about your business is really different. So the most recent example was a business who was wanting to sell paintings.
Yeah.
And so they're, even after doing this scenario, their first post that they wanted to make was, I'm having an exhibition next week. Join me, please. Okay. So we just tweaked it a little bit so that we talked about, well, what is their brand? What's the relationship between what they're selling and the actual customer, and what problem does it solve for the customer?
Right.
So start thinking about them instead of you.
Yeah, right.
And the first thing that she said in relation to her business was people love to take a piece of the place that they've lived away with them when they leave.
Yeah.
So memories.
Yeah.
And then they like to know how to look after them. We created a variety. So we created a post that actually added value to the customer by providing and allowing them to identify with the geography of the place and identify with everyone else who lived there. So it's a conversation. Okay. And then you can tack the exhibition on at the end. Take a piece of this place with you when you go. Right.
Fantastic. All right. So really what you're saying is let's take a step back, and rather than pitching product, let's find out what what's in it for the other party, which is really, it is marketing 101. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And now we're sort of in this situation where it becomes even more important to actually be quite sensitive to getting engagement. Now, just as a side point, we are taking questions. Anyone who has any questions along the way, please feel free to put them into the question box, and we'll attempt to answer them if we have some time at the end. but I know that Pamela's got a lot that she's going to share with us today, and some other stories about the Belgian beer bar and what happened after the redhead. So let's keep going down that track.
Sure. So if you remember, listen first, and that it's a conversation, that will put you in good stead.
Excellent.
So you ready for mistake number 2?
Yes, here we go.
Okay.
The drama. Drum roll.
Now, I've happily moved us on to this slide because I'm pretty sure that may not make sense in and of itself.
No.
So we'll just let this phrase sink in. It's social media marketing exclusivity. So what I mean by this is that businesses will do either of two things.
Yeah.
They will either see social media marketing as completely separate from the rest of their marketing activities. So if they've got a full marketing plan that includes search, newspaper ads, any kind of everything else basically falls into one basket.
Yeah.
And you've got objectives about what you want to achieve when you carry that out. And you measure the results. Does it actually give it that to you? Then they go onto social media and just have a stab.
Right.
So it's not exclusive from the rest of the marketing plan. That the take-home point is that it's got to support the business objective. So the business objective that drives the full marketing plan must be considered when deciding how and why you're going to do social media.
Gotcha.
And in what way?
Okay.
The other thing that this phrase is referring to is that if businesses don't do that, the other thing that they often do is rest the entire weight of the marketing plan upon the shoulders of social media. Now, big mistake, because we're going to talk about the way in which social media can be leveraged.
Yeah.
But it's all about how it interacts with the other parts of one's marketing plan.
Understand.
So take home point, social media always has to support and be integrated with the rest of the marketing plan. If you look to social media to actually drive sales, an example would be, this is my product, this is a link to my website, please click on it.
Yeah.
And then you measure how many people clicked on it.
Yeah. Fail.
You're planning to fail.
Absolutely. And a very important point, because I think, even before social media, we often recognize as marketers that one marketing campaign will actually support the other marketing campaign, because people don't usually act on a particular thing. And as an example, we might be dealing with a tradie who puts signage on the side of his car. And you know what? He gets a call and someone says, I saw your sign on the side of your car. But the reality of it is that the car was in front of the neighbours, and they know the neighbours, and they figured the neighbours are using you, therefore you must be good. So it was a referral.
Yes.
Okay. And so they're two sort of independent marketing concepts, but they actually worked in concert with each other, because you wouldn't have got one without the other. Now, what you're suggesting is the same. Is social media needs to be seen as a piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
And it needs to be aligned
with business objectives.
I understand.
So let's move straight on to then number 3, because this is probably where it really matters.
Yep.
Is that if you're doing either of those two things before, if you're resting the weight of the campaign on social media, often you're measuring the wrong thing for a start. And the other thing is that you're not looking at social media as how it's going to actually help you do something intelligent. So what I'm talking about by that is, let's take a step back and look at what a business needs to achieve sales. So marketing methods of how you might get there. I'm going to talk about 3 things. One is reach.
Yes.
One is depth.
Yes.
And one is relationship.
Okay.
So one might argue, if you know a lot about marketing, or from your own experience in business, you have to get in front of people.
Absolutely.
So reach. You have to create methods of discovery.
So reach is a term used in social media. In traditional marketing, how would you describe that?
Discovery is probably the better word. So marketers would understand, or brand awareness. Marketers might understand that you can't buy something from somebody who you don't know exist.
Right. So it's like exposure.
Correct.
Yep. So reach is how many people know you exist.
Yes, getting in front of people.
Right.
Okay, and then the depth is perhaps when they're later toward the end of their buying cycle, and they want to know more about a product. So it's about creating an environment that facilitates exploration. So provides more information about what you're about. but they have to be at that part of the buying cycle to want that information. But it's an important part of any marketing strategy.
Okay, so just to translate
Yep.
that into coach terms, so reach is exposure or just being known. Depth is now making sure there's some sort of process of engagement prior to the sale, which actually either
Information.
educates. So
Yes.
I was going to say it's either information rich, so it educates people on content, or it engages them in some way where they're interacting without actually thinking they're in a sales process at this point. They're really just getting educated, or
Research
they're getting to know
mode.
you. Yep.
Yep.
So they're getting to know you, and now they're getting to like you.
Yeah, and they're deciding whether to buy.
Yep.
Number 3 then
Yes.
is the relationship.
Okay.
So it's really interesting. I'm going to throw something out there on the table, and we'll try and bring it back to regular marketing as well with your help.
Sure.
So on the relationship in social media.
Yep.
And this stat is something to write down and take home and never, ever, ever forget, because it is so invaluable.
Okay, hang on, I'll get my pen. Let's go.
Over half of consumers are more likely to buy from a brand
Yes.
if they have an existing social media connection with. Okay, so you've got brand X,
Yes.
you've got all of their potential customers.
Right.
Brand X is on social media
Mhm.
and connected with, like, they like their page or they
Yep.
follow
So
them
there's
on
just some
Twitter.
form of loose connection.
Yep.
Yep.
Then there's brand Y,
Mhm.
who those same customers are not connected with on social media.
Right.
Over half of those customers are more likely to buy from the one that they have the social media connection with.
Wow.
So this is about buying behavior. Okay, so when we're talking about social then,
Mhm.
how you do your activity on social, it's about making sure that that relationship is there, that the connection is there, and that the bond on social media is there,
Right. Okay.
because they're more likely to buy from you if it's there.
Okay. So just to translate that to David Guest terms,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening now is we've got this social media platform, and anyone who's on that social media platform is more likely to buy from me than from my competitor. But my job is to keep them there and to keep them engaged so that they don't feel like they're being sold to, but they feel like it's of value to them in some way, shape, or form.
Right, because it's not about whether they buy from you from the post that you just created.
Yeah.
If you've been able to build the bond with them via the post,
Yes.
then the stats also show that there will be a lift in purchase
Right.
outside of social media.
Interesting.
Right, so let's go back again to the beginning of that and have a look about what that could look like on social. So
Sure.
they're the 3 business objectives, and this is as opposed to going onto social media, creating your Facebook page, creating your Twitter page, building it and believing that they'll come.
Yeah.
And
selling them to the buggery on any product or service that I possibly can, and then being disillusioned or disappointed because I'm not making any sales.
Right. And so one of the metrics that a lot of businesses crave are page likes.
Right.
But to be fair, a lot of businesses have now even moved on from that. Many businesses have wised up to that in and of itself. Page likes don't equal sales.
Right.
So that was the first disillusionment. So it was spending all this time, money, and effort on here, and yet I can't attribute one single sale to the people who have liked my page.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing that, in terms of a metric then, we know page likes don't mean sales. So let's measure traffic from social to my website.
Yes, which I would consider as a fair metric.
Okay, let's have a look at that. Google Analytics can tell you not only if somebody's just come from social media, they can also tell you if they were on your page even up to 30 days prior, then left your page and then ended up on your site. So you might, rub your hands with glee that this is a solid metric.
Yeah, I would thought so, but obviously you're going to burst my bubble here.
Okay, so let's look at how it works actually on Facebook as an example.
Sure.
If Mary Smith engaged with a brand, liked their page and then liked a post, or commented on a post, so the bond is there between Mary Smith and the brand.
Yep.
When Mary Smith engaged with the brand, it created what we call a story on social media that all of Mary's friends saw.
Yeah.
The stats are out that there is a lift in sales from Mary's friends because they saw Mary engage with the brand. So Mary's friend might not even be a fan of that brand.
Okay.
But yet they've ended up on the website because of a story that they saw created, but that is completely untrackable.
Of course, because they're not a friend, and they jump on the website. So this is like the story we said about the sign writing on the side of the truck. Someone jumps on my website and I go, oh, where'd they come from?
Right.
And it's possibly Google as a lead source or direct, but there's no trace back to social.
Right. So in terms of being disillusioned,
Yeah.
if that's what you're measuring, you're
Yeah.
going to be. Whereas we're looking at the business objective is to get in front of as many people.
Mhm.
So now combine that objective.
Yes, which is reach.
Yes.
Right.
So exposure, you called it. We'll use that term
Exposure.
then.
Yep.
Let's combine that with the rules of the party.
Okay. So the rules of the party is make sure everyone in the party knows you exist. So you got to be loud. No. Loud shirt.
So if a business can start creating content on social media that is genuinely part of an existing conversation and that other people care about rather than about themselves, they're going to get people generating lots of stories about them.
Gotcha.
Right, and if they actually do their job well in terms of connecting with people and asking them to check in because there's a relationship, then that's going to then give them exposure.
Right. So every person that sort of writes a little bit of interaction on your fan page is now talking to their database or their friends.
So if your goal is reach as opposed to clicks to my website, can you see how that changes your strategy?
Totally, yeah.
Okay.
So now it's really just about what you were saying before, interaction, and it's about getting people actually to almost sort of fall in love with you as an organisation.
To do that, you've got to give them something. You've got to give them value in some way, shape, or form. Now, it could sometimes mean selling. So people do like brands for exclusive deals and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always got to be something that they are going to want every single time. If you're just going to put something up that's not conversational, so you miss out on your actual business objective, which was reach.
So this conversational thing, this is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not about what you put up there, it's about how much conversation occurs around what you put up there.
And just making the language familiar is not what I'm talking about.
Right.
So it's not like, hi, everyone, here's my da-da-da.
Hairdresser for redhead people.
So the importance of this point is the listening part in the social. Yeah. Because if you know who your actual audience is and you know where they're already hanging out on social media and you know what they care about, you can actually create content that it might be about your next product, but you would specifically promote it to a particular audience who has an interest in that.
Gotcha.
So rather than just shouting to everybody who don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so depth is a really interesting one.
Right.
Depth we'll put back into the language of regular marketing, which was information and education. So they already know they want to buy. They're not just playing on social media and hanging out.
Yep, they've shown some sort of buying signal.
And they need information to know that your product's what they need.
Right.
Okay, so this actually happens outside of the social media platforms.
Yeah.
This is not about activity on Facebook or on Twitter or on Google+. This is about your website and integrating social with your website.
Gotcha.
So an example might be, and you referred to it earlier about how the person who saw the car outside their friend's place, in effect, it was a referral.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to go deeper into that people trust peer reviews more than what brands provide themselves in terms of information.
Absolutely.
So you've got them to your website via search.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you integrate social communities and forums and rating and review functionality onto your website, they can see what other people have to say about your product. So your activity on social then becomes about how can we get people rating, reviewing, and talking about, and then integrate that into our website, and it's going to increase your conversion.
Excellent. Okay, so really going back to old marketing terms, testimonials.
Sure.
Right, social proof.
All about testimonials.
We used to have them as a page on our website, but now it's actually a function that works through social media as an interactive. And so people just what's called social proof. They see a number of people that like us, and automatically they assume if they like us, we must be good. And they can click through and they can find out what the comments are and so forth.
So say you have a few negative comments.
Yeah.
You could see then how this would inform your efforts. So you're not just spending time willy-nilly on social media.
Yeah.
So you've identified you've got some negative reviews.
Mm-hmm.
your whole social media strategy could then be around activities such as a contest on Facebook that rewards people for writing more reviews and actively giving people a reason to provide more information and check in more so that your negative becomes outweighed by the positive. And then that's what people see when they go to your website.
Yeah, because I suppose this is a key point of social media too. You're opening the world up to comment on you. And negative comments are just as easy to post as positive comments. Now, always in customer service training, when we teach people in business, a customer complaint is one of the most exciting things ever.
Yes.
Right? Because a customer complaint means that they care enough to say something. Now, how you handle the complaint is critical because usually a complaint will turn into what's called a raving fan. So you deal with the complaint effectively, and that person goes from not liking you to thinking you're the best thing since sliced bread. What you're suggesting is within social media, we're opening this door, or this chasm, we could call it, of opportunity to deal with customers directly and non-customers, but it's in public.
And it's even more than customer service. It's even more than about directly dealing with people. It's about using social functionality to encourage the things that will help you when they're on your website. And it's even more than just you commenting back. So if you can provide activity on social, and an example are contests where you start rewarding people if they check in or if they, you get so many check-ins per week and etc., then you can actually achieve a business objective, which is depth.
Gotcha. So you can actually start using the social media as a platform to have lots of stories, interactions that people are building over time, their life. I suppose anyone who sees those can check people out. So there's this transparency that occurs. Because, I used to use the analogy of, we used to get the paper to see what was on at the cinemas. And you'd have like triple star ratings on a movie. And then it would say the Sydney Morning Herald. And it's like, is that a testimonial or is that just a bit of marketing material? Right. So a lot of testimonials are untrusted because they're sort of random names or they're, unaffiliated to anybody. This sort of methodology means we can drill in and see who those people are that are making the comments and actually work out if they're real or not.
Yeah, and you can see how there are so many things that you can do on social. So the question is, what should you do?
Yeah.
When you start thinking about it like this, it informs what strategy you need. Everyone can run a contest. Yeah. Most businesses run a contest to get more page likes.
Yeah.
More page likes is not
what it's about.
A goal.
Right.
So you might run a contest that's deliberately designed to right a wrong over there that is affecting depth. They get to your website and they've got no peer reviews,
right,
or what they found out on Facebook was negative.
Okay.
You've affected their opinion of your product when they were ready to buy.
Wow. Okay, so really, I suppose what I'm getting at today's conversation is that we need to be looking at social media in a totally different method or way that we look at any marketing, because it's more than that. It's about customer service, it's about social proof, it's about interaction, and it's almost having the community and making sure you're the most popular guy in the community.
Yeah.
And you can't do it by just paying people.
No.
Just paid likes and so forth.
Well, the thing is, though, because people's natural instinct is to shout about themselves, and it is such a complex idea, I would argue that paying somebody can be a good thing.
Okay.
But not just any agency. I even see agencies getting advertising wrong.
Yeah.
And it's scary. So the message here is research your agency and make sure that they understand these sorts of principles. So if you're deciding who you want to use, ask them, do you understand, like, what's your business objectives of our social media strategy? And if they promise page likes to you as a goal, it's not that page likes are a problem, and because that at the end of the day, some agencies might offer that as a tantalizer because so many businesses want it. But when you go deeper into the strategy, if they don't start talking about how they're going to help you meet your business objectives, start pushing them.
Okay. So the chasm between page likes and generating more profit in my business is really, it needs to be filled. And I think that's the disconnect for most people with social media. They see it as, yep, there's a lot of people liking me. Look how many friends I've got. It's not turning into business. There's a chasm. Yeah. And what you just described today is that there's several ways to measure what's going on in that gap, and really holding the marketing company to account to a degree.
Yeah.
Saying, yep, you can give me page likes, you can give me impressions or reach, but ultimately, how are you going to get them from there to here?
And if you're doing it yourself, think about where the weaknesses are in your own business. Where are
Mhm.
you losing people in the buying cycle?
Yep.
And then use social media to help you right that wrong.
Yep.
So run a contest specifically for that, or advertise
Can you give me a specific
specifically.
example? You've said it a couple of times now, righting the wrong.
Yeah.
So give me a scenario.
Sure. So one of our clients had a negative review on Google Plus.
Yep.
So the idea is to run a contest
Mhm.
that encourages all of their existing customers to write reviews, and every 3 months or quarterly they give away a prize
Right.
on a sweepstake. So if you write a review, you go in the hat and you get drawn out and
Gotcha.
potentially win a big prize.
Right.
So figure out where you're losing business
Uh-huh.
and use social media to fix it,
Gotcha.
and then you'll be really focused in what you actually achieve by it.
Okay, so in that scenario, righting the wrong is actually eliminating the negative by putting so many positives in front of it that it's gone.
And social's a beautiful way to achieve it.
Right.
So what you're measuring then isn't how many reviews you got even.
Yeah.
What you would measure is, did it fix the sales problem? So do your sales go up or down?
Yeah.
But you don't actually attribute clicks from Facebook to your website to measure that. You just measure your sales.
Yeah.
So in the instance with Pepsi and Coke,
Yeah.
so Pepsi cut out their advertising for the Super Bowl and put it all into social, and they got an incredible result. They got something like over 80 million votes in the contest that they ran in a year, and at the end of it, their sales were lower than Coke for the first time.
Okay.
So you've really got to say, is my social media activity helping me get sales? And in terms of measuring it, it's tricky. In the same way, how would you measure a TV ad?
Yeah.
You would actually measure whether your sales went up or down.
Yeah. Okay. So look, let's take a step back. Okay, because a lot of the people on the call are small business owners. They're not Coca-Cola. They're not Pepsi. How do they approach this? So social media, they can create their own little company page.
Yeah.
And they can get their family to like it, and probably a few of their key customers. But let's be realists and say, okay, most of my customers probably aren't going to jump on and like my Facebook page. So how do I build this thing?
Sure. A really good thing is to actually, if you've got an email database already in place, email them and ask them to join you on social media. If you can get them across, then over 50% of consumers will more likely buy from you because they did that.
So anyone who's a prospective client that's sitting in my database, we need to start encouraging them to come across and like our Facebook page.
Right.
Okay. So we do that, then what?
You could also run a contest to encourage them, because people are largely apathetic.
Right.
So they may not even just click the button. However, if you run it with a like the page and go in the draw to win.
To win something.
Another example would be if you've got a reception desk or a countertop, get yourself an iPad and stick it there, and then actually ask customers to write a review when they're leaving or to check in. Have all sorts of campaigns around encouraging them to check in, because it's adding to that connection, which helps reach and relationship.
Okay, so you actually give them some sort of tool to get them to like you at a momentary time, or to check in, as you say. So that's going to start building this like side of things.
And I think the single most important thing to do is think of ideas that you want to post that you can advertise.
Yeah.
So you get in front of more people. But think of ideas with the goal to simply connect with more people, as opposed to making the sale then and there.
Right.
If you change that thinking, the rest falls into place.
Okay. So we're starting to think in terms of, how do we connect with people? How do we offer some sort of competition or some sort of gift to get them online to like us? And you mentioned something before about depth, and really, I suppose that engagement strategy. How does a small business owner engage on a Facebook page?
Sure, it can be quite simple.
Yep.
So it's not just Coca-Cola and Pepsi who can do this.
Yep.
So if you're an e-commerce site, first thing I'd do is add a single sign-on to your page. They have to log in anyway in terms of buying.
Yep.
So make their Facebook or a Google Plus or a Twitter login instead of an email.
Right.
So that at that point, you're integrating and getting them thinking about social, and then you've actually got all of their social detail as well. Okay, then when they're on your website, have a plugin. And this anybody can do this. It unless you have to redesign your website, potentially anybody could simply add a plugin where they can like your Facebook page without even leaving your website.
Right. Okay, so we're making it easier for them to like us. Okay. So,
Another example is making sure that the place where people review your products is really easy for people to find and integrate. So you could integrate Yelp reviews, or you could integrate any of the others reviews directly from Facebook or Google Plus and have it there. You've just created depth.
So really, like when you say Yelp and Google Plus and Facebook, they all have this ability for people to review products.
Yeah.
And you can plug that into your website.
Yep.
So that people can jump online, do it on your website, and it shows up in the social media stream as well.
Or it's more when other people arrive at your website, they see other people who have already provided the reviews.
Okay.
But then think about your day-to-day activity with your customers about how you can get them to review.
So this leads back to the old testimonial marketing and saying, well, make it easy for people to comment.
Yes. Review, check in, anything that helps.
And once they do that, then that builds this trail of interaction. What about a couple of other just simple tips? You know, the small business owners going, great, I got my Facebook page up, I've got my 100 clients on there, and now I've shown them all the products. I've told them what I did on the weekend. Where else can I go?
Sure.
Just some ideas around that.
Sure. It's really good to run your posts through this formula.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're posting, you're either client focused, and it is okay as long as you do it right and you only promote that to people who actually care.
Yep.
So that could include the latest product that you've released. People will engage with the brand to find that out.
Yep.
You've still got to put it through the filter of who you're showing it to and how you're actually saying it. So it's not come here and buy, it's about providing information.
Yep.
Okay, so then you could be even more product focused, but it's about how people could use your product in real life. So it's not buy this product.
Yep.
So if you're selling, like, say, Kraft peanut butter, or if you're a grocer, provide recipes and tips, how they use the things that you sell. So you're adding value to them.
Right. So a plumber. I'm going to test you here.
Sure.
He's a plumber, right?
Yeah.
He's sort of social media, another thing I have to do, and so he gives it to his wife to do. And she's sitting there going, well, what can I put on there?
Okay, my answer to this might be for at least rated M.
Yep.
Not R, but certainly M. So if there are any children, just close your ears for a little while.
Okay.
We actually have a plumbing client.
Okay.
So you haven't put me on the spot at all. And it's a great example. So their business objective, in this case, is reach, because they're fairly new. So they just want more people to know about them. So they're not trying to sell the service at this point.
Yeah.
So Christmas time, what do we post for them?
I'm guessing pictures of scantily clad Santa's helpers.
One could do that. You do have to run it by the filter on Facebook, which is
pretty sort of
conservative.
steep, so.
But along that line, so we posted a picture of a Santa bending down, showing a little bit of bum crack. And our post was smile like only a tradie can. Merry Christmas.
So it's as funny
and
as
it was
that.
shared. It was viral.
Yeah.
It was shared. And every time somebody shared it, the rule of thumb is about 80 of their friends on average will see that brand because of the share.
Right. So here we are. It's just total comedy. It's totally out there. It's got nothing to do with anything, any product or service or delivery.
But it gave them what?
It gave them reach.
Right. And it also gave them something else. So there was reach, depth, and relationship.
Yeah.
What other box did it tick?
That's a good question.
I would argue relationship as well.
Yeah.
Because it created a bond. Anybody who had a cackle now has a warm, fuzzy feeling toward that brand.
Right. So really, this is quite different to your standard marketing strategy, isn't it? It's all about sort of having a bit of fun. It's all about, if I can get someone to giggle at what I've done, I'm actually building bond.
Whatever it takes to get people talking about you and to get them bonded to you.
Fantastic. Look, there are a couple of questions here that I might run through.
Sure.
Because I'm conscious of time. Look, Ian's asked the question, are people getting too cynical to see through the social subtext before the selling? You know, are people starting to get cynical about how social media works? In the way I see it, social media came onto the scene about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone got excited about it, and everyone said, oh my God, this is the new marketing mecca. And they all jumped on board, and then they got disappointed for the obvious reasons we talked about today, and they've bailed. And now they're sort of, well, it's there, but should we sort of, could we, what's the next generation?
It's a good question, and my instinct is that, Ian, you'll do just fine because you even understand that people are cynical.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People are cynical. So that's why you can't do typical salesy kind of posts.
Yeah.
So just making it conversational isn't enough. People will just roll their eyes and go, oh, please, just asking a question for the sake of it. A lot of social media agencies are getting, and businesses are just asking questions, trying to get engagement. They understand. You should see Telstra's page. They just ask questions, and it's so transparent, in my opinion. It's not hard to see through it. So the rule of thumb is you've got to genuinely add value.
Okay.
So if it's about your product, is it something that's new that potentially people would want to know about, and make sure that you only promote it to people who might possibly want it, or else they'll be rolling their eyes.
Okay.
If it's about an update to do with you, be careful about how you enshroud it.
Yeah.
If it is an update, make it an update. If you're going to provide a funny, don't just pick a cat meme and hope that you'll get new reach, because people like a cat meme. Actually find something that's funny. So it is a bit of hit and miss. And if you don't find content that's really funny or actually gives them something that makes them feel important to share, then they will see through it.
Okay. So really, this is a really tough call, though, to understand the difference between what you think is funny and what you think.
You know what the best filter is?
Yeah.
And this is what I train my team with all the time, because even people who understand all of this theory, when they're posting for brands, it's like this instinct that comes out. And so what I say again and again and again, run it through the filter of you are just hanging out on social media and you are actually making that post to your friends. And every time my team change the language straight away. And it takes it from being this thing that is trying to be conversational but really is salesy to something that's actually going to add value. Because if you were sharing something with your friends, you're not going to be cheesy. You're only going to share something and you're going to be quite, straightforward, or you're only going to do if it's adding value in some way. Okay. And it changes the way they post.
So really, like the message I'm getting today, loud and clear, it's all about the frame of reference when we're addressing the social media. And what you're saying is, go to the pub more often, become genuine with your friends, don't be too cheesy, and stop trying to push product and start trying to think of ways you can add to their experience at the pub.
Beautifully said, David.
Right.
That's awesome.
I know where we're going after this.
To the Belgian Beer Garden. Anyone online want to join?
Oh boy, this could go viral. So look, I suppose we're sort of getting towards the end of our time. There's a few other questions. We might try and handle those sort of afterwards, like when we send out the follow-up. Okay. What I'd really like to do is let's talk a bit about, I suppose, how Position Me Online are involved in this sort of space and the sort of services that they offer. Because some people are going to do it themselves, which is fine. Some people are saying, well, okay, now I understand I need to think about it slightly differently. Where can I get more knowledge, more understanding about this?
Sure. Well, Position Me Online will actually implement the strategy for you. So if you're a business who understands that what you do well is your business, then Position Me Online is good for just taking it off your hands, and you can just relax and know that it's being taken care of by people who understand all of what we've talked about.
Sure.
There are alternatives where you can learn how to do it yourself, but if your starting point is, I just want an expert to do it, then how it would work is that we would find out from you what your business objectives are, and then create a strategy around helping you achieve that.
Because often I'll say to people, marketing should be about return on investment. It should be investment, not expense. Expense is something that you expect no return. Investment, you expect a return. So if I can go to an expert and say, I'm happy to spend as much as you tell me to, so long as you can promise me a return, I feel a lot more confidence. So that's, I suppose, the service we're talking about here.
The other thing too is remember what we've talked about today, in that if you do engage any agency and then try and basically say that every single post needs to be about what you do and control that, then any agency may very well take your money and do that.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily going to bring the best result for you. So be soft in terms of being open to how it could be run and why, and hold them to account with, reach. We'll make them prove to you what reach their posts got for you.
Okay, great. There are a few more questions rolling in. Let's see. Return on investment.
I am happy, David, too, if anybody who's listening today just has, one-off questions that becomes apparent after today, you are welcome to just email me. I've just pulled up a slide there. I invite you all, just email Pamela@positionmeonline.com with your question, and I'll do my best to help you out.
Yeah, but I will point out Pamela is a trainer for the organisation, so she's not in the sales department, so she might delay her response to you. She might defer you to one of her other people, but you can certainly tell from today's conversation she's quite across the social media. You can tell the passion that you've got for this thing. And really in a market where there's a lot of unknowns and black boxes and people don't really know what they're doing, we need people who can actually explain it in a way, Belgian Beer Garden, that is understandable, because it is a different approach to marketing that sort of, it captures the old parts. What I see is there are some fundamentals that exist, but the methodology, the way we have to do this is quite different. So the insights have been great. One of the questions from Simon, he says, we talk about return on investment, but what about return on influence?
Return on influence. At the end of the day, when you're talking about return on, that phrase is about you're putting in X amount of time and X amount of money.
Yeah.
Is what's coming back. Does it have a profit margin?
Yeah.
So the question itself, return on influence, I think the only way I know how to answer that is to quote the stat that people are, what is it? Is it 12% more likely? No, it's 80% more likely to trust a peer review than information provided from a brand.
Absolutely.
So I would argue that 80% of people's willingness to trust a peer review is the return on influence.
Yeah. And I would agree with that, because this comes back to the testimonial marketing methodology, saying, well, it's not what you say about yourself that people believe, it's what others say about you. Now, if it's construed, like if it's extruded from people and fashioned, it's sort of suspicious. But if it's conversational, if it's just lots of people making positive comments and contributions, all of a sudden you don't need to sell yourself anymore. So I think what you're saying is you
That's
are
the magic of
influencing.
social, right there.
Yeah. So it's being a leader in the social community.
A qualifier for anyone who's listening too is that there are exceptions to what I'm saying, in that if you're a celebrity, or if you're perhaps a charity or a cause that has a community of people who already care about what you do, then they will probably connect with you on social media to just hear more about you.
Right.
So if you're a celebrity or a charity that already has an organic community, you can do what you want, just keep them informed of what you're doing.
Right.
This is assuming that the starting point is a business who doesn't have an existing and buzzing community. They're ready to go.
Right. Okay. So really, if you're already in a position of influence, now people are just following your comment.
Right.
But if you're not in a position of influence,
they're buying ad space.
Yeah. So really, from that other side of it, which is the majority of business owners, what they're trying to do is build a community that talks more about them than they do about themselves, and that will give them the reach, that will give them the social proof, and that will really allow them to benefit the most from their social media.
In terms of the question again about return on influence, there are ways to measure it via technology such as Clout. However, again, I think that there are just a lot of tangents. You know what really measures influence is ranking as well. If you start building solid social media forums, Google will start ranking you higher when people search on terms that your business is bidding for.
So it sort of becomes all-encompassing in the end, doesn't it? It's sort of like it sounds to me like social media is here to stay. There's no question that it'll be there forever. The question is, how do we integrate it into our current marketing strategies, and how do we make sure it's a natural integration?
Yeah, so rather than an exclusive monster by itself.
Yeah, and really what you're saying is we can pull pieces from every part of our marketing and customer service strategy and plug them straight into our social media, so it becomes a central.
So social reflects what else you're doing in marketing.
Fantastic. Okay, so if you're going to sum it up in one sentence, for people saying, should I, shouldn't I, social media, what's the story? What would you say?
I would say that social media has brilliant return on investment and actually offers a magic that other forms don't, as long as you get it right.
All right, so I suppose as we wrap up, I want to thank you very much for your input today. I put you on the spot, Pamela, because I changed the way we're going to do the presentation halfway. You've managed to go through quite well. Also, Nathaniel, thanks for being here for support. I know that it was through Nathaniel that I actually met Pamela, who works with Nathaniel, and I can see these guys really sort of grabbing hold of this space in the market and making sure that they can answer most of the questions. So I'd like to thank you both for your time today. Thanks, David. And thanks for the people listening as well. If you have any questions, you've got Pamela's email there. And we'll be forwarding out some contact details after the webinar to make sure that any questions that come up after you can get addressed as well. Thank you very much for your time, guys. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.